What are we going to talk about today? It's plant medicine. In this video, really these videos are just cathartic to me. It's good to rant and get things off my chest and off my brain to whoever decides to watch these videos. And I hope to just help people become more aware and more conscious of what's going on this world and in their lives. Now, in this video, I feel like talking about black projects, right? So I was just doing some research on that shit this morning. Why not make a video about it? Black projects, specifically aerospace and CIA black projects. Now, it's Tuesday. Usually I post silly memes on my Facebook like Tesla Tuesdays, but today I was researching T. Townsend Brown. So I call it T. Townsend Tuesdays. And T. Townsend Brown was, if you don't know, right, I talk about many researchers quite a bit, but if you don't know who Thomas Townsend Brown was, he was a physicist who was doing experiments on how to levitate metal disks with electricity. He would use very high electrical voltage from the kilowatt to megawatt range. I don't know the specific numbers, but he would electrify these metal disks, and I believe, if technical speak of it, is that he altered the angular momentum of the particles themselves to make them more massless, and was able to levitate large disks and literally propel them around with electricity. He was doing this in the 1920s and the 1930s. If this man was making metal discs levitate 100 freaking years ago, which then, his research was then subsumed, whether it was bought or given or whatever, it's subsumed into the Rand Corporation. The Rand Corporation is a very large corporate think tank of scientists. Well, they'll just go think about shit and basically ponder all the fun technology that they don't give us. It's the black projects of the military-industrial complex. Now, if, like I said, Thomas Townsend Brown was making discs levitate 100 years ago, what do we have now? Good question. What do we have now? So, I don't know if you remember or know this. A man named Donald Rumsfeld, pretty famous politician. I was just talking about him earlier, actually. I was, discussing how he owned the patents for aspartame and shuttled that through Congress. I was telling a client that. But the political Donald Rumsfeld, when he was, what was he, in George Bush's cabinet as I don't remember, defense secretary or some shit. Regardless, he testified in front of Congress the day before 9/11 on September 10th, 2001 to $2.3 trillion that the Pentagon couldn't account for. That's trillion with a T. Now, if Donald Rumsfeld was testifying to $2.3 trillion, well, A, where the fuck did that money go? And B, what is it now? That was like, what was that? 2001, it's 2017, 16 years ago? 15, 16 and some change. So, I don't know if you also know this report, but I remember last year a Department of Defense, a DoD report came out stating that number is $6.5 trillion. And Dr. Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project, I believe in one of his lectures, mentioned even upwards of 9 to 10 trillion. So they have a shit ton of money that the Pentagon has just swiped. And that's just with the Pentagon and, through whatever books they could swipe at the end of the year, basically is what happens. That's just what they couldn't account for through on the public record. Imagine what these bloodline families or these shadow syndicates, whatever you want to call them, imagine what they get off the off-books trade, like their drug trade and their trafficking, human trafficking and sex trade with all the real, and weapons as well, all the real deep dark shit. So, man, 9 trillion. and then some. I mean, not only is that money used to build infrastructure, a covert infrastructure, they don't tell us, but let's be real, the technology that they could build, T. Townsend Brown was building out these disks 100 years ago, and then, they swiped Tesla's papers. There's all this research that they have. They could build a completely self-sustaining network system outside of our current civilization that we know of on this planet. So these black projects, obviously the technology's there, right? T. Townsend Brown stuff. And then, 100 years of research and development with essentially an infinite amount of resources and money at their disposal. What don't we know about? Why don't people ask these fucking questions? I curse. It gets me angry. But people really don't logically put this stuff together and ask the questions of, okay, they got the research, they got the money, why wouldn't it be something that they have? What really are these UFO sightings that we're seeing, and are they really on other planets? Probably. There's a reason we ain't gone back to the moon in 50 years. Well, we have, they just haven't told us about it. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And along the lines of the technology they have as well at their disposal, not only was T. Townsend Brown researching these disks 100 years ago, but Roswell occurred, and other so-called treaties between humans and extraterrestrial civilizations, massive technology exchange. And then when the Roswell crash occurred, and the best explanation I've heard for Roswell actually was from Greer, who said that the U.S. was testing scalar weaponry, right? He has an FBI document that says, what the FBI document says is they were testing radar, and then that's what took down 2 or 3 discs. They actually took down the discs, and Sergeant Clifford Stone said they recovered bodies. So Roswell occurred. They took down discs. What probably happened was they were testing, primitive scalar weaponry that they inherited from, the research from people, Tesla and Townsend Brown and the like. So it was basically a death ray. Tesla, scalar, longitudinal, point-to-point, boop, death ray, and they tested it on Roswell, and that's what brought down the craft. And then the shit we were able to reverse engineer from the craft, like fiber optics, Kevlar, and computer chips. So they found out what they could reverse engineer from Roswell and what they could profit off of with all that, and that's what they've done ever since. They just haven't given us the good research. So, what's in these black projects? It's just, I could keep talking about it. Go into the Montauk Project and MK Ultra and some other dark stuff. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'll make some videos going into the other projects, but that one is just the aerospace companies. My thoughts on what could be, what has happened, and what could be with those black projects of UFO research and free energy research and the 0-point energy technologies that we're not given to. So, hope you enjoyed that. Done.